Got it. Well, hello, Dr. Dan Mossell, Mossell Holistic here. Um, we have decided to do a talk on brain health because it's pretty important. I'm getting to an age where it's getting more and more important. I'm starting to see more and more of my friends are having issues with memory issues and things such as that. And I just my mom, my mother had it. A little bit of dementia. My father, he had um, he had big time memory issues, dementia, but it was after heart attack, which kind of goes in with what we're talking about tonight. To tell you the truth, it all ties in. But then also, it's just a lot of the world you see in the United States. They figure about 6 million people with Alzheimer's, and and then a lot with just dementia, but also it's those big things like that. But it's the day to day things where you see just kind of like me at times finding that right word, or that you could see if you have that foggy brain, trouble focusing. A lot of people with children and adults with ADD, right? The attention deficit, depression and anxiety, especially big time issues with brain health. That's a brain health issue. Moodiness, being apathetic. So it's a big issue. So and actually, to start it off, we're going to have my new associate is Dr. Dan DiBiasio. Uh, Dr. Dan is he's been a chiropractor for 5 years. He was 4 years over in Michigan, worked at some really nice practices, but he came back home and he wanted to study applied kinesiology, which is my specialty. And so he actually was working for a year with the gentleman, Dr. Wright, down in the South Side, and had some great mentoring through him. He did a lot of the AK courses while in school. I'm going to be mentoring him, have been mentoring him along. So he's ready. So I'm going to let him kick us off here. So, he goes by Dr. D because we had an older Dan here, and then he's a younger Dan. I didn't want to be known as old Dr. Dan. So I said, we have to come up with a system here. So we decided for now, we'll see if it sticks, Dr. D. And actually, Dr. D is my nephew, my godson. So, Doc, I'll let you take over.
Let me unmute myself here. Thank you very much, Dr. Dan, and thanks everyone for joining in today. Our topic, like Dr. Dan was saying, is going to be brain health, and basically my goal is to give simple steps and things that you can do on a daily basis to really help keep your brain healthy and active and sharp. You can do things like and it's all just stay sharp about our daily lives, because I find myself always hard times if I don't keep up sort of stuff. So it should be a pretty short-ish talk, 4 minutes for you. I'm going to be covering methods, as well as I forgot that in there, and covering the gut and digestion and how that acts the brain, your diet, everything like that. I'm also going to give presentation and a pretty cool app to do something called box breathing, but when we get there. So what I really want to start out talking about was our mental fitness just overall. A lot of times when people think of their brains and how to sharpen their life, think doing things, puzzles or reading books, and those are wonderful things to be doing. And you can keep your brain sharp. It does work because it's challenging our brains. connection strong and to on growing the brain. So comes to your brain, your mind is one of those where you don't lose it, you lose it. And having connection to the brain, use memory is expensive. It takes a lot of energy, and the brain
Dr. D?
actually uses a lot. Yeah.
Sorry, you're breaking up really bad. Your connection is really bad.
Ooh, let me see if I can fix that really quick. I'm sorry. Is it still cutting in and out? Let's see. Dr. Jan, can you guys hear me all right?
Hey.
Or
Yeah, that's better.
Much better.
okay, we'll see if this helps. If I go wonky again, let me know. But basically, when it comes to mental fitness, we do need to be challenging both the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. The left side's the more logical side, so this is things like Sudoku puzzles or kind of your language centers, so really like reading. Whereas the creative side or the right side of the brain is artistic endeavors, learning languages, using, learning music, stuff like that. So a really cool app that some people use is called Lumosity, and it does things just like how I was talking about, where it challenges both sides of the brain and also challenges your memory so that it can kind of keep you sharper. You can play it for 10, 15 minutes a day. It's like playing a video game. So definitely something to consider moving forward. But anyways, so I'm going to move on to something that I think is a little bit more interesting, which is the kind of the brain-heart connection. So I was talking to Dr. Dan when we were putting together this presentation, and I basically said that, we could basically just make this whole presentation about if you live healthy, you're going to have a healthy brain. And the same thing kind of goes for your heart. I mean, we're going to cover things that are good for the heart today, like exercise, nutrition, meditation, all the things that are actively good for your body also are really good for your brain. But there is a direct link if you dig into on link between the heart and your brain. In fact, the National Heart Institute, the most that they have is what's your brain. So I found that pretty interesting. Outside of that, I did want to talk briefly about just the blood supply to the brain, because it's really important. When you're thinking or using your brain heavily, you actually end up using about 50% of the oxygen in your blood and the sugar in your blood to power the brain. So the brain needs a really robust blood supply, and it needs to have good access to it. So having a healthy heart so you can get the blood up to your brain is important. In terms of that, chiropractic has also been shown to help with the blood supply to the brain. There's been some research out there that getting the upper cervical spine adjusted, so the base of the skull, the C1 and C2 area, if that's misaligned, it can actually alter the blood flow to the brain and lead to things like brain fog and just like other issues like that. I'm sure Dr. Dan and I can both attest that we've adjusted patients, or maybe you've had this experience where you've been adjusted, and after the adjustment, you stand up, and you feel like your eyes can open wider, or you feel like you can just think clearer. I know I've had that experience as both a patient and as a practitioner. So it's really cool. So the chiropractic side of things can be important as well when it comes to the brain health. So moving on, and the other thing that I wanted to touch on was the importance of exercise and your brain health. So overall exercise is obviously very, very important to us. Dr. Dan and I were just talking 30 minutes ago about how we've been, looking into the research behind exercise, and the more and more you look into it, the more the research is starting to prove that it's just so important. Like if you could bottle up exercise into a pill and list the health benefits and list the risks, everybody would be on the pilled form of exercise. But unfortunately, we can't do that. We need to actually put in the time and effort. So with exercise, I actually like to think of 4 different types of exercise that I try to hit every week, or hopefully on a regular basis. The 2 bottom ones are ones that people don't really think about too much, and one of them is balance exercises, or exercising that balance side of your brain. So something that I found interesting, or that I find interesting, is that the cerebellum is part of your brain. It's in the back, and it makes up about 10% of your brain. And the cerebellum is really, its job is to coordinate your movements and coordinate balance. So it makes up 10% of your brain, but 50% of your neurons live and work there. So balance is very, very important to us. So doing balance exercises is, it's like feeding the brain. So balance exercise can be something as simple as just a single leg stance when you're brushing your teeth or doing the dishes. But a lot of people like to practice Tai Chi. Involves a lot of balance and coordinated movement, as well as yoga. With the flexibility and mobility training, this is another important one. And again, flexibility and mobility is important overall, just because as we age, as we get older, we tend to lose our flexibility and mobility, and it tends to go in one direction. So if we don't maintain it, it ends up becoming an issue. So flexibility and mobility are important overall, but I'm not going to touch into them too much because I don't think it's as important when it comes to brain health. So now on to the ones that we're probably more familiar with, which are the aerobic training and strength training. So aerobic training is things like brisk walks, hiking, biking, running, swimming, things that really get your heart rate going. So for this, what we really want to shoot for is 120 minutes a week of good aerobic training. The important part about this is that where your heart rate is while you're doing this aerobic training is very important. And if you're not keeping track of that, or you don't know where you're supposed to be, you may be spending the 120 minutes a week trying to do the aerobic training, but you might not actually be hitting the goals that you should be, or you might not be hitting the marks that you need to be. So the general rule is there's all these things online that you can find where basically for aerobic training, you want to get your target heart rate, or their maximum heart rate is 220 minus your age. So I'm 30 years old, so 220 minus 30. My maximum heart rate is 190. And then to be in that aerobic range, you want to be, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Dan, I think it's 70 to 80%, 70 to 90% of your target heart rate or maximum.
Yeah, actually,
You know off the top of your head?
the formula that I go by is Phil Maffetone, is 180 formula. You take 180 minus your age.
180
and,
minus. Okay.
Yeah, 180 minus your age, and then that's your, like, say so I'm 60, so that's 180. So I'm at 120. So that I've been exercising, and I haven't had any colds or anything. So I could go. So for me, between 110 and 120 is where I'm in my fat burning range.
Okay.
And I kind of want to stay there. And what I find, and what the research is showing, that people overtrain, and they get in. If they go too high, you're in the sugar burning. That stresses your adrenals. That puts a lot of it's a downward spiral. So it's actually, people say, "Oh, I'm crawling at first," but eventually you get faster and faster, but you keep your heart rate there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we'll, you know what, I'll put a link here in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you. So yeah, so hitting that target heart rate properly is important. So in our office, what we use is the MyZone, which is a heart rate monitor that you can program to let you know when you're hitting that proper zone. So the right aerobic training is really good. And like Dr. Dan was saying, if you overtrain or if you're undertraining, you might not be getting all the benefits of the aerobic training, which the benefits for aerobic training are, I mean, I could go on for a long, long time, but the coolest one for the brain is that it actually releases something called a neurotrophic factor, which means it's a brain growth factor. So it really helps you with memory and also creating new connections. So aerobic exercise, very, very important. And then we have strength training. So for this, I'd recommend 2 to 3 times a week on your strength training. And the importance of this for the brain actually comes down to the fact that the more muscle you have on your body, the better you're going to be with your insulin sensitivity. Your body's going to be able to maintain its blood sugar levels easier, which is very, very important to brain function. If your blood sugars are too low or too high, it's just going to throw your brain off completely. And if you have blood sugars that are too high over long periods of time, it can damage the blood vessels in the brain and cause issues. So strength training in general, again, Dr. Dan and I could probably do a whole talk just on the benefits of strength training and why it's important and why we should be doing it. But I'm not going to get into that for sake of time and me not rambling too much here. So those are the biggest ones. With the strength training and all that stuff, it obviously with the like I said, it just helps with it helps maintain your blood sugars properly. So I'm going to finish on that. So the takeaway points from what I talked about would be doing something to challenge your brain on a daily basis that pushes you a little bit outside of your comfort zone. So that app Lumosity is awesome for that. It just walks you through it. There's no thinking. Otherwise, reading a challenging book, learning new languages, and things of that nature. Something else I did want to mention, sorry, I just remembered, is that there's actually a lot of research on social connections and being involved socially to keep our brains healthy. So they tend to find that people who have a community around them or who are more engaged with groups of people tend to have better functioning brains. So take that at face value. Hopefully you can find something that you enjoy doing with other people is basically the takeaway there. Outside of that, we want to make sure that we keep our hearts healthy by eating well, which Dr. Dan is going to cover a little bit here, and exercising. So Dr. Dan, I'll pass it over to you and I'll let you say what you're going to say.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. D. Very good. That whole thing about blood sugar, I'll be talking about that in a little bit. And that's where, that's where the guy I did put the link in there, somapatone.com 184. He is the guru on fat burning and all that. But anyhow, brain connection, and what they're finding is all the latest research is really bearing this out. The alternative community has known this for decades, of course, but and a lot of people say, the gut is our second brain, but some people kind of consider it the first brain, and it's that all the gut makes about 90-95% of your hormones that affect our brain health. So we people think about, like, you say, oh, I was so nervous I have an external event. But sometimes when we're really nothing there that we know of that's bothering us, but yet we just feel off, right? And sometimes it's our gut is off, and that can just affect how we feel mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So it's really important. I think so we need to work on the gut. Physical exercise, mobility, movement is way more effective than any of these antidepressant drugs. So and so it's absolutely imperative that we take care of the gut. So and the biggest part, so we know the gut's that important, and we know that. Like here we got allergens. Most allergies are due to gut issues, right? These leaky gut, and that comes down to the big foods are dairy, wheat, gluten, right? I'm trying dairy, wheat, soy, and man, I'm drawing a blank kind of forth. But but those for sure know that these are big allergens, and they can cause. And when they have if you eating a food that you're allergic to, it on the one hand it can boost you right at first because of these histamine response. But then eventually you're going to crash from it. So we know a lot of these, there's a lot of foods we eat cause inflammation. Blood sugar is a big issue, and it's the sugars, refined carbs. And if your blood sugar is out of hand, whether it be, even if you do a blood test and it's in the normal range, your doc says, oh yeah, you're normal, but it doesn't. You know, a lot of people, you know, that word hangry, everybody's familiar with that. You know, that's not just a funny thing that, you know, ha ha, yeah, I got a little hangry. No, that's a physical, that's an issue that affects how you function. So to be at your best, oh man, do I sound okay now, Carla? Nancy, that was you. Can you hear me okay?
You're cutting in and out a little bit.
I'm switching to AT&T. All right, well, I'm just going to assume I'm good. So, all right. So how do you have a healthy gut, right? So we know the gut is where all these things happen. Okay. Man, I don't know what to do. I'm right next to my modem. So hopefully it's, give me a minute. All right, hopefully it's better. So what do we do to help fix the gut? Rule number one, we have to get rid of refined carbohydrates. No ifs, ands, or buts. I've had so many people. I just had somebody come in just in the last 2-3 weeks. She was having all sorts of issues, physical as well as just feeling always fatigued, tired, worn out, really just not depressed, but just not good. And we did the 2-week carbohydrate intolerance test, which if you want, I'll send to all of you. Anybody who wants it, just email me and or just call me, let me know. And most of you I know have it. So, but it's the 2-week carb test, and then we put her on it, and within 2 weeks she was able to. Her whole life has changed, and she's just so grateful. So, so we know, like Dr. D was saying too, with it's not just how you eat to get you burning sugar right, but it's getting moving. And the more muscle you have, the more you can burn sugar or burn fat. Excuse me. It's all about becoming, are you a fat burner or a sugar burner? When you're a sugar burner, you're up and down, up and down, up and down all day, and that's when you're reaching for that coffee or candy bar at 1, 2 in the afternoon. That's when you're waking up groggy in the morning. So anyhow, and just all the typical things, and I like for fixing the gut too is fermented foods. All the research, all the new research coming out showing fermented vegetables, unbelievable, because they're prebiotics as well as probiotic, right? And you're feeding these bugs. It's all about, we're outnumbered 10-1. We got trillions of bugs inside our gut, and so we have to feed them the right things. So we know green leafy vegetables, all those kind of things, fatty fish, good fats. Don't be afraid of fat. Fat is the brain is a lot of fat, And in order for the brain to work right, the more actually, to tell you the truth, I'm sure you've heard how, maybe you haven't, but a lot of people who have a seizure disorder, they put them on a ketosis diet, right? So they get them to burn fat and so they're burning these ketones. And when the brain is being fed by ketones, a lot of these people, their seizures they're gone, or way better, very much controlled. So we know the brain does well with burning fat. The brain loves fat. It loves ketosis. All right, so that's why walnuts, almonds, pecans, those can be good. A little bit of those go a long way, though. So easy does it. All right. So yeah. So and we know. So that's as far as we want to get the body to be burning fat. That's the whole key. And there's different ways to do that. You can use intermittent fasting, can help. Time fasting, where you can eat over a 12, 14-hour period, or try to fast 12, 14 hours a day. So eat, ideally you want to get down to 8 hours, where you're eating an 8-hour window, you're fasting for 16. But sometimes people have to start with 12 or 14. You got to see where you're at. You don't want to be falling down faint. So, but we can help you with that. If that's something you're interested in learning more about, by all means, we can help you. All right, so nutrition, that's that. And then a big thing for brain health, and I actually just started a 2-week sleep challenge. I don't know if it's really a challenge, but it's kind of interesting enough. I just 2 nights. So it was Monday and Tuesday. And actually, I kind of signed up Sunday, so I challenged myself Sunday. But so just the big thing for me is going to be getting to bed at a decent hour, because I like to wake up early. So it's people people want it both ways. They want to get up early because they have to get up early for work or school or whatever, but yet they want to stay up. So they're giving themselves 5 to 6 hours of the period to sleep. You just can't do it. The bare bone minimum, everything I'm reading, is 6 hours 30 minutes, 6 hour 45 minutes bare bone. There's consequences if you don't get those hours. And then, of course, it's not just the number of hours, the quantity, it's the quality. And there's a lot of hacks for that. And a big one, like I wear gaiters all the time. These are blue blocking glasses. Little things like that, where you block the blue light, and because blue light will stimulate the brain and stimulate that pineal gland, and you won't be able to fall asleep properly. And so doing that, I recently, in the last 6-7 months, my room's not dark enough. If you have the blackout shades, great. But getting a sleep mask. I wear a sleep mask now. After 2-3 nights, you don't even know it's there. And it's no pun intended. It's night and day. It's really, really good. So do use a sleep mask if your room's not pitch black. And so just good sleep hygiene, and just get there's things to do for that. And once again, if you, by all means, reach out to me. We can talk about these things. But then too, a big thing is being out in nature. The studies are showing that being in nature, the effects on the brain, it's all about it's all about your hormone levels. So if you got your blood sugar under control, a lot of people right away, when they do that 2-week test or when they do a detox with me, they say, man, I'm sleeping like a baby. They sleep soundly. So we know blood sugar handle helps with that. But then too, there's people find that they're less anxiety. People say, man, my children say I'm a lot nicer. I'm not as moody. And they said, is that to do with what I'm eating? Yes, it is. So we know, and then so that's just with the nutrition. But then because then when your cortisol levels go up, your insulin levels go up, your cortisol levels go up, and that's inflammatory, anxiety-provoking hormones. So we can do that with nutrition, but then also we want to use meditation and breath and being out in nature. Those all go together. But meditation, there's some great, I've been using for the last 3 weeks. I heard a great podcast. This guy was a Navy SEAL, and he started teaching his recruits this breathing technique, box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold out for 4. And you just do that for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So I've been doing it 3 minutes a day. There's an app I have an Apple phone, and thank you, Dr. D. And I use this box breathing, and it works great. I got this app for it, so I do it for 3 minutes because I'm going to do it more, but I just wanted to do it these last 2-3 weeks for 3 minutes just so I could report how it felt. I have to say, I do it first thing in the morning. I have my coffee first thing in the morning. So I put on my kettle, I turn on the app, I do it for 3 minutes, done. It's the easiest thing in the world. And what I found doing it is I feel a pretty profound just sense of, it's a nice way to get the breathing going, and breath is life. Remember that. And I get the breathing going. I feel $1,000,000. I'm already, it slows my brain waves down. And it's just, all the studies show it's a wonderful, the health and benefits as well. Physically, mentally, emotionally are just unreal. 3 minutes a day is all you need. If you could do 5 or 6, that'd be even better. One thing I like is my 5-minute energizer. And even when you're doing that box breathing, which I haven't done, I just thought of it right now, I could just imagine that when I'm breathing in the energy from the sun and that golden light, and it fills my belly, just fills the belly up with that big ball of golden, beautiful golden energy. And then when I breathe out, it just fills up my legs, my arms, and all around me. So I've used that for many years, and it's a wonderful technique, beautiful technique. Really works. People tell me that they really get great benefit from it. It's great for anxiety. I like my grounding cord technique. I learned that years ago, and I used to, when I meditate, I'd fall asleep within a matter of 2, 3, 4 minutes. Now, if I ground, I don't fall asleep. I stay awake. I get in a nice state. And just even earthing. That's just being barefoot on the grass. It's kind of tough in the wintertime, but this time of year, you go out in the morning, go out in the afternoon, that grass feels good, if you can. And then just being out in nature, and even if you live in a crowded city, there's trees, you look up at the sky, that's nature. Just appreciate it, look at it, and just look for the different cloud formations. Remember what it was like as a kid, just that you'd be in awe sitting on the ground looking up at those clouds. So do that. And then one last thing as far as that goes too is I like, it's called GLA, G-L-A, gratitude, love, and awe. And what I like to do is at least one time a day, more often if I can, is when I think of things, we all know the power of gratitude. So if you can just spend a minute in gratitude for whatever, it can be your pet, It can be your nice cup of coffee in the morning. It can be your warm bed that you're going to be climbing into at the end of the day. Whatever it is, your loved ones, anything. Just focus. The subconscious mind, it just knows the feeling of gratitude. It doesn't matter what it's about. So, and then spend a minute with focusing on love and just feeling the energy in your heart when you've had that feeling of beautiful love. You spend a minute on that, and then the last one, awe, just something that you're just awestruck of. And you look at the like beautiful sunset you remember, or seeing a beautiful baby holding a wonderful newborn baby, just the awe of new life. Looking at a beautiful flower, anything. Once again, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just the feeling of it. And the more you do these things, and the more you can remind yourself throughout the day. And I've been doing this now for a few years, and I have to say it gets easier and easier. And then next thing you know, you're just in this state, and things are happening around you, and things that used to really stress me out, they just don't seem to bother me as much, and I know it keeps my blood pressure down, it keeps my blood sugars down, and I hope I'm a little more fun to be around. So we know all these things. There's a lot of research behind all these things we've talked about tonight, and to me, with what we decided to do too, because I decided when I turned 55, I said, holy cow, if things work just right, I have another 30 years of, I was pretty generous, 30 years of good life. I think if I can make it to 85, I think I can make 85 pretty darn good. I think I can feel as good as I do now, to tell the truth. And but I really decided then that I have to take action. I have to figure out where I'm at and what I'm doing. I've been in healthcare my whole life, and but we get complacent, and sometimes you don't know what to measure, how to measure. But we've come up with this. What we use at the office here is a wellness score, and it's about 30 different tests that we put people through, and we get you this wellness score and see where you're at, and with that it measures your physiology, and and then so we see where you're at now. And I always tell people, it's not so much where you're at now, but which direction are you heading? Are you heading towards being a blessing for your family down the road, or are you heading towards being a burden for your family down the road? And I know which way you want to go. So this wellness score will be a good indicator of where you're at and how things are. And what we'd like to do is offer a special for that. With that, you would get the wellness score. You would sit down with either Dr. D, myself, and then or myself, and then we would go over the results and give you a plan. So it'd be two visits. One, doing the actual wellness score takes about a half an hour, and then we review it, and then we have you come back and we go over it and give you a plan of action. So we're offering that for $49. We're going to be offering that for the next 2 weeks. So call, and so we really think we know it's a great test. We've had a lot of people come through and do it and go through our program, and they do a wellness score afterwards, and it's much improved. So I would like to do that, and then if anybody has any questions for me at all, you could chat. You can send it through the chat line. If not, I'll give it a minute here. But if you got something, you can type it in. Otherwise, we'll call the meeting up here, and want to tell you all thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. And if you don't have a question now, you can always email us. Oh, Doc, you got something?
I have one. I oftentimes have patients ask about any supplements or herbs to use to help boost memory. Is that something that you recommend? Anything like that?
Yeah. There's like, for sure, fish oil has a long history of research showing that it works. Yeah. And that's something I like to put pretty much everybody on, truthfully, fish oils. I like, and then, there's ginkgo, supposedly has a lot of benefits. And and the B vitamins to me are, because those are your stress vitamins. And so we know B vitamins, a lot of people who say they don't remember dreams. And dreaming doesn't mean you're not dreaming, but they start taking B vitamins, especially B6. All of a sudden they start remembering dreams. And I think that's kind of important, to tell you the truth, even if you don't know what the heck your dreams mean. I think I don't know. I'm a big fan of dreams. So, but yeah. What else have you heard of, Doc?
That pretty much covered it for me. I wanted to definitely mention fish oils, omega-3s, just being great for brain, heart, but also all the other stuff that's shown for. And I actually used ginkgo for a little while throughout chiropractic school, and it honestly, I'm not sure I'd recommend it 100%, because there were times where it did make me feel a little bit like too hyper or too like it really affected me kind of hard. So
all right, well, maybe yeah, okay. And well, I'll have to try ginkgo. And then there's a lot of yeah. And so I think if people start eating better, they start moving, they start meditating. It's like we mentioned earlier, we could give any topic about we want to discuss and use the same formula. So this is a recipe for life. I listen to all these podcasts and these national experts, and it's all like, man, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. So this is the 8 weeks to wellness. This is our program. So, all right, all. Well, thank you so much, and let us know, and we'll get you in for the wellness score. All righty. Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks, Doc.
we'll see you later.